Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an exciting episode of Fanzone Debate. We are here for a number one contenders match. Very excited for this one because it's a bit of an interesting situation here. We got Robert Castner taking on Jack Pinchuk. Both of these players have played contender matches before and lost in them. And I just realized that at this very moment that is what happened. So Robert went to a contender match against Cody. And Cody went on to did you win the belt in that run, or was it the one after?
I think I won it in that run, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I don't remember either. And then Jack went to a contender match last season against Nazario, who went on to challenge for the belt. So both have played in contender matches. They've made it to this far, but haven't been able to get over the hump. So who is going to be able to win and go to face Brian Michaels in Brian's first chance at a defense? We don't know, but we'll find out in anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, folks. So we are going to talk to Cody first. Cody, how are you doing, my friend, and what do you think of this matchup?
I think this matchup's good. They gave me an absolute ulcer watching this match get set up because, answers came in within, 3 seconds of the questions being dropped. I was like, it's all right to sit and think on them. So if either one of you lose, it's because you rushed your answers way too fast. Just a little side note. Don't do that against Brian or you will not win the title. But no, I think it's going to be good. I've always said this, if I could be Bonesaw against Spider-Man, I would love for Jack to be in that cage. I would love to just beat the hell out of him for 4 rounds in debate. It would be my dream. I can do it as an exhibition, no stat, no records. Just please let it happen at one point, Tim. Second, but if he wins, that's great. Going to contend for the title, his style works. I just feel like I could literally carve him up because I think I scared Jack. Castner, I played. Castner's still to this day the one answer that pissed me off the most that I lost to him about a road trip with him picking Barley and I picked Sully. And yeah, you were there, you bastard. But other than that, I think he's really good. I think if he can form a debate really well, I think honestly he matches up with Brian really well with how they form questions and how they work together. So I'm interested to see either one, but I think it's going to be a better match than what I feel about Jack normally.
Okay, fair enough. Mark, welcome to the Gun Show. Thank you for bringing them. And how are you doing, my friend? What do you think of the matchup?
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I like having Robert in here. He's got a very calm approach to this. It's a nice change of pace from all the hotheads we have in this league.
Yeah.
And I always like being here with Jack. Just because I never feel like Jack is gonna win a match. And then I'm here judging the match, and I'm like, I don't think he's gonna win the match, but he just refuses to die, and he wins the match. That's just what happens with Jack. He just doesn't let up, and you're like, oh, Jack got a point. Oh, he got another point. Oh shit, Jack won the match. It's weird how it happens.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think that Jack has proven himself to be, by getting to 2 contender matches, that is hard to do in debate. It's hard to do in this league. It's not an easy thing to do, and I think that he really proved himself. And I agree with what you said about Robert's demeanor. I think that him coming in is into the contender match ring makes total sense. He's very good at formulating arguments. I think this is going to be a really interesting match. We'll see what happens, but let's go talk to the competitors really quick because that was a long intro. And we're going to talk to Jack first. Jack, hey, what up? I have to remind myself during debates, I have to put my hatred for you aside because I have to be fair. So I just want to get out one last fuck you, Jack, and then why don't you tell me what you think about going up against Robert?
No, that's 100% fair. I'm a very hateable person. I'm excited. I debuted in debate against Robert, and he proceeded to knock me the fuck out. And since then, I've become a better debater. I'm more confident. I'm very confident in my answers. Yes, we picked quickly, but there were some pretty obvious picks, and that's what I went with. So I'm excited. I feel good. Robert, if you win, good shit. I'm going to try my best to get to that title match.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's bring in Mr. Robert Castner. Robert, welcome to the match. Your thoughts about taking on Jack once again? I keep forgetting you guys debuted against each other.
Yeah, everything is cyclical. Everything's a flat circle. We come back around. It was a debut, and now we're in a contender match. Cats are living with dogs. It's raining sideways. Black up is down. What are you gonna do? That's where we're at. I'm looking forward to seeing like a new and improved Jack. I think that will be fun. I think that will make the debate more not as one-sided as the last one was. We want to be entertaining for the sake of the debate, so I'm hoping that's what happens. And I'm very confident in my answers too. I thought about them for. I did go back and forth with them a bit, even though I answered them quickly. So I wasn't a seesaw the whole time, but I got to the middle of the seesaw, and here we are. We're balanced, and we're ready to go.
Awesome. All right. Well, this is how it's going to work. So there are going to be 4 prep questions that the players are going to debate tonight based on categories that they drafted. We gave them the questions. They're going to debate them tonight before our very souls. So how it's going to work is they're each going to get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute free form, followed by a 1-minute closing. At the end of the debate, Cody, Mark, and I will write on our boards who we thought won the point. 2 out of 3 votes gets you a point, and the first person to 3 points wins the match. Any questions from the players?
My favorite thing is I don't think you ever notice it, but when we ever do the board speech, Mark always wonders where the board is, and he spends the 5 minutes looking for said board. So it's great.
That's funny. I have not noticed that, but I'm gonna look for that in the future. All right, no questions. Let's do it. Just because I think it's funny, I shot a match with Caleb the other day, and I said he looks like this. So I wanted to throw it up there again because I felt strongly about it. So not that it has anything to do with this match, but all right, guys. Your first question is coming in the category of actors and actresses. This was drafted by Mr. Robert Castner. Your question is: what is the best performance by Robin Williams in a live-action Robin Williams film? Robert, you drafted this, so you get to go first. You have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking. I will come in to give you the 10-second warning when the time comes.
Fortunately, couldn't pick Fern Gully, but no, I'm just kidding. When you consider what encompasses a peak performance, a picture should be painted within that role that speaks to how you understand character, motivations, and how you relate to them on a human level. And I think the performance should tell the whole story of who that actor is as an actor, what tools they have in their kit, and do they unveil everything about that within the film? Do you understand everything about that actor when you're watching them inhabit this space in the role? And I think nothing encapsulates everything about Robin Williams as a thespian more than the role in The Fisher King, which looks at how 2 men are bound by tragedy, trying to rebuild their lives in a partnership with each other, inextricably linked based on a heinous event of a nightclub shooting. And unlike certain roles where Robin Williams swings to one side of the pendulum, where he's manic energy, physical comedy, outlandish voice impressions, and then the other side where he's this stoic professional who, while funny, is a little bit more subdued and reflective, The Fisher King displays Williams' entire performance path. There's nothing that says more about who Robin Williams is as an actor than The Fisher King.
Okay. We are going to move over to Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Robin Williams was one of cinema's most beloved actors from the 80s until the end of his career. He made his name by playing the manic, high-energy characters, lovable goofballs, and flawed but kind-hearted and well-intentioned characters. However, it's the roles where he plays against type that truly showcase his range as an actor. And the best example of this is his performance as Sean Maguire in Good Will Hunting. In this performance, Williams doesn't put on his typical high-energy caricature, but plays Sean with incredible reservation and emotional depth. In scenes where he could have gone more animated, he reins himself in. At times when he needed to bring the humor to the scene, it doesn't feel forced or overbearing or too much. and in moments of vulnerability, he moves you to tears. This performance is so good. He wound up winning an Oscar for it in Best Supporting Actor, and is still considered one of the best wins in that category. All in all, this isn't just the best choice for Williams' performance. It's one of the best choices for any performance.
Time. All right. Surprise, nobody picked Flubber. Guys, you have 5 minutes of freeform. I will throw up the 1 minute warning when that time comes, and I will still come in for your 10-second warning if I feel like you're talking over each other or someone is not getting the time they deserve because Jack's probably shit. Sorry, I gotta stay. I'm gonna throw up the let your opponent talk. Don't make me do that. People have seemed okay with me sending Nick to their house. You don't want it. He's a madman. He's a wild person. You don't want it. I will send him there. Don't do it. 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
All right. So, Jack, you mentioned about sort of the understated performance of Robin Williams' career sort of defines it more than the manic part of it. And what I'll say is that I can't deny the brilliance of Good Watson. It's a great performance. But what I'll say is when I'm watching the movie, as I'm looking, everything's understated in this. His dialogue, his actions. It makes sense for the sake of the movie. But I lose out on the stuff that I really like with Robin Williams, which is passion and zeal. And that's a huge part of what kind of audience expect from him. And I know this is against expectations. He's emotionally heartbreaking in it, but I don't get that because you don't feel the emotion permeating through. You're just getting a sense of it based on how he talks about it. And I think a lot of heavy lifting in the monologues you're talking about that make you cry are based on the writing of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
Okay, that's interesting because while you can say the writing is more the backbone of that performance, I could say the exact same thing about the Fisher King. His big moment in the Fisher King when he's running down the road, hallucinating the Red Night, seeing the flashback of the night his wife died. That's all delivered in the writing. That's not something that is that's reliant on his performance. Whereas in the park bench scene, for example, it's because that he's such an animated person most of the time that him reining himself in while still conveying that passion, that zeal you want, is still present. It's just more subtle. The scene the scene at the park bench where he delivers a monologue, it moves you to tears, and he finally gets on Will's level in that scene. The scene where he first meets Will and he ends up like getting physical with him. There's dramatic and yeah, no, I'll let you talk.
I think that's the only time when that happens, when there's a dramatic sort of leap from him, honestly. And the park bench scene, even like I Gotta See About a Girl, the context of that is written around how Ben Affleck and Matt Damon experienced their lives. And I would disagree with you. I think the big moment is the adjacent moment in The Fisher King, which is when he's professing his love to Lydia as Amanda Plummer on the park bench. On the stoop. She doesn't want anything to do with him. She wants to end the night and basically end the relationship. And he explains through the explanation of stalking her how smitten he is, because this is an anachronistic performance. It's non-modern sensibility in a modern time, and thinks he's a knight. So he's basically expressing a ballad to her. And when you juxtapose that with what happens in the scene that you're talking about, it's the full range, the gamut of what it is that he can do connected together in The Fisher King that I don't necessarily get in Good Will Hunting. So I think you're not necessarily considering the less imposed parts of The Fisher King.
That's fair. I'm not going to sit here and say that he gives a bad performance in The Fisher King. It's a very good performance from him, but to call it his best is a little insane to me. And he's not even the best performance in that movie. Jeff Bridges has the more difficult role in that movie, where he has to grapple with the emotion of his carelessness, his words, resulting in the deaths of several people, and him finding a way to forgive himself for that. It's a much more thematically challenging performance. Whereas Williams, you said in your opening that most times he's like on a pendulum where he's either manic or reserved. He's fully swinging both sides in the pendulum in this one, and that's not a good thing. It's a very tonally confused performance. 1 minute he's coked out of his mind, raving and ranting about the Red Knight and the Holy Grail, and the next he's catatonic, like he's just a shell. And well, on paper, yes, that sounds like range. It's just two extremes. There's nothing in the middle there.
But he's someone who's dealing with hardship, and he's put up walls in his head that eventually come down at the point of the Red Knight scene. So I think it makes sense for the sake of someone who's dealing and who's been living on the streets and dealing with that kind of emotional baggage. I would say for your performance, I've seen it before. I saw it in Dead Poet Society. The difference is that just he's older, honestly. It's the same sort of understated thing. He's funny. There's a depth of emotional resonance of like losing a lost love, but it's kind of very much the same. I don't think there's anything that encapsulates and embodies everything that he does in The Fisher King like what happens in The Fisher King. I don't think it's tonally bad. I think it makes sense given the state of his character.
Time. Okay, we are going to start closings with Jack. Jack, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Robert can try to downplay the dramatic elements of Williams's performance, but it's those elements, it's his comedic sensibilities that make those moments and those elements more impressive. Throughout the film, you are constantly on, like you are constantly with him the whole time, where he's trying to break through to Will, and he's even in a scene where he's just repeating one line, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault," to Will. That scene breaks you because, like Will, you realize that that he's finally finding a way to forgive himself, and it's Williams's emotionally deep performance that brings that to the forefront. The last line of dialogue in the film is Williams's improvised "son of a bitch stole my line." That one line bounces so many tones at once. There's sadness in there as he realizes Will's leaving. There's relief when he realizes Will's going after the girl. There's just so much in there.
All right, let's go over to Robert. Robert, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Not downplaying Williams' sensibility is dramatic chops in Good Will Hunting. I'm just saying, if you were trying to summarize Williams as an actor and you only showed him Good Will Hunting, the first thing people said, it only tells half the story, half the picture is there. You're missing a big part of what makes him him. And you only get that sense of understanding the comedic sensibilities and how that's different if you have the basis of history with Robin Williams, which you could have, you could not. I'm saying that it's easy to look at The Fisher King as him playing this crazy homeless person. But as you watch him switch between professing his love for this woman that is trying to take the place of his wife necessarily in his mind, transition immediately to having those walls come down and have the previous life interact, and then he becomes catatonic, you can't help but be enthralled by this journey you're taking on. It puts him on this pedestal. He switches between catatonic, manic, sage, truth, and virtuous. He does this all within scenes and between scenes. I think it gives the whole picture of who he is. I don't think Good Will Hunting can do that. It's too understated.
All right. I'm going to bring in the judges. Out of curiosity, has nothing to do with my vote. Williams nominated for Fisher King, yes?
He lost to Anthony Hopkins.
In what?
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Oh, he was nominated in Best.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Him and but him and Bridges are on equal footing in the movie.
Oh, I would agree. I just would have figured that that would have been one of those moments where the Academy was like, well, he's supporting, like with Green Book or something like that.
Anthony should have been supporting, but
arguably, yes, I agree.
Exactly.
I would have put him in supporting.
He's 18 minutes.
Jeff Bridges didn't get nominated.
No, unfortunately, and I think he should have.
That movie is insane.
So good.
Isn't it?
Yeah, thank you, Robert, for getting me to watch it.
Was that your first time, Jack?
Yeah.
I watched it for the first time during COVID, and it wrecked me and Maggie for 3 days.
Drinking milk is the most unhinged thing I've ever seen during a debate, and I just want that.
Who's drinking milk?
Jack.
Of course.
Have you not seen any of my matches?
If you do that, I should have banned you a long time ago.
All right. So, as I said, last time I watched Fisher King, it's the only time, and it was in 2020. Though I sat next to someone on a plane when I went to see Mr. Tuig in New York that was watching Good Will Hunting on the plane. Couldn't hear the movie, but I stared at her TV the whole time. So 2 excellent picks. Fantastic. I went with Robert on this one. Yeah, this was interesting. Jack sold me on the excellence of the performance in Good Will Hunting, and but there wasn't really anything he said that took away from the Fisher King for me. If anything, he tried with like the whole it's just 2 extremes, but I think Robert was able to take that down and kind of show that it's not just 2 extremes and there's a lot in between. And I thought Robert did something really interesting in this that I haven't seen done ever or in a very long time, which is talk about what the actor does best in everything and kind of contextualize that into one movie. And kind of say, like, him for this, and there are moments of that, but he also does all these other things. I thought that was really interesting and really smart for a performance question. So I'm glad we didn't go down the Oscars rabbit hole. Thank you. But it was only brought up once, which that's all it needed to be. And I thought Robert did a great job. I gave the point to Robert. Mark, where are you going?
That's true. I also went with Robert. Yeah, kind of same thing. Like I feel like Robert made the right argument for the Fisher King in the sense that it's kind of the best of both worlds. Whenever you get to Robin Williams, it kind of shows kind of his range as an actor. And yeah, Jack threw some stuff at it, but it kind of I don't feel like Robert was able to defend off that pretty well. Jack, I think, gave the right argument for Good Will Hunting. It just Roberts was just better.
Cody, your vote doesn't count. Where would you go?
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting conversation. Mrs. Doubtfire exists, just to let both players know.
Oh, yeah, that's a great pick.
At least 2 totally different roles, but it's okay. No problem. I'm only a little sad. So this one actually was a weird one for me because I think it came down to what the hits against, because I think they both painted a good enough picture of why the best performance is. I think the takedowns were weak on one side that I just didn't buy into, and I ended up actually going with Jack. Because Robert's takedown of the writing and stuff, I just don't think that's like a strong enough. And I understand being like into a argument where like Good Will Hunting's a very hard thing to counteract, and like he has to choose something. He chose that. It just didn't work in that regards for me, and I think Jack did a good job of like trying to deflect Fisher King. I think they both picked really good choices. I just had to go with the defense was weak on one side, so when I had to split, Jack got the point. But me and Tim get us agreeing on the first question. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it?
Before we go on, can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
I watched Good Will Hunting with my wife, and she was like watching the park bench scene. She's like, "You got to argue against this." I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, I know."
It's tough. That's one of those movies where like I showed it to Maggie when we were first dating. Like we had only been together like maybe 6-7 months, and she's never wanted to watch it again. She dropped the $5 and she was like, "I don't know that I can do that again." I'm like, "It's so good though." Like anyway. Great job, guys. Glad we're talking about good movies. I'm sure we'll keep doing that because I see what the next question is. Guys, your next question is coming in the category of epic adventures, which was drafted by Jack. Your question is, which Middle-earth character has the best character arc throughout their course of films? I'm channeling my inner Joe Farrelly on this one. So, Jack, you get to go first. You have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been. These are the words of Samwise Gamgee moments before he's stepping out of the Shire and into the adventure that would change him as a person forever. Before he sets out for Rivendell with Frodo, Sam is a mild-mannered gardener with a crush on this girl, but lacks the bravery to put himself out there. He's quiet, he's fearful, and he's a pushover. Of all the characters in this franchise, it's Sam that undergoes the biggest change. This journey drags him through hell and back again. It forces him to find his bravery. It forces him to make tough decisions and sacrifices, and forces him to support Frodo and protect him, not just from the influence of the ring and Gollum, but protect him from himself. It takes 3+ hour movies to build Sam's character arc up, whereas on the flip side, my opponent's character has no growth until the last, until like the half of the last movie, and it frankly comes out of nowhere. This isn't a question.
Time. This is fun because I don't remember what Robert's pick was, so I'm very interested to see what this is. Robert, 1 minute when you start.
The technical definition of an arc is a curve that joins two endpoints. So there's a distinct space between one point from the other and shows a distance. Story arc's the same thing. It's a path followed by a narrative. You gather a clear beginning, middle, and end, usually for characters within that story. I gave you this Webster's opening to make you visualize that the best character art usually has the best distance between the points and one you can see with distinction. And nobody does that better than Peregrine Took, aka Pippin, who starts off as this cheeky, asshole-ish hobbit who likes to cause trouble and only thinks of himself the first time that we meet him, getting into shenanigans. And by the end, he is someone who is changed completely, who lives for other people fully, who understands the concept of taking oaths and doing things outside of himself. My character's, my opponent's character that he chose, there's no traveling distance because we already know who Sam is even before the middle of the first movie, and he never changes from there. It's the same thing.
Time. Shit. Okay, guys, 5 minute free form when one of you starts.
Good job.
All right. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. Pippin's growth as a character doesn't happen until Return of the King, almost entirely in Return of the King. From the first movie until he looks into the Palantir again, he's just fuck up. He has one moment where he gets Treebeard to go to Isengard. Otherwise, it's just constant fuck ups. And then he suddenly, his growth comes from this feeling of guilt over Boromir's death, which was never explored or mentioned in Two Towers at all in the whole film that came before it. Whereas Sam, he's this, like, he's basically a wimp at the start, and at the end of the films, he's Samwise the Brave. He's the one who takes it upon himself to save Middle Earth.
Okay, so first of all, there are other moments where Pippin shows some sort of growth. He decides with the group that he wants to go and join the Fellowship. He decides with Merry at the time when they're going to separate as a Fellowship that they need to do what they can to distract the orcs away from Frodo so that they don't capture him. He's very cognizant of trying to keep Merry sort of in better spirits as they're being taken through Rohan and the Two Towers. He does do what you said about convincing Treebeard to go in. And then, yes, the biggest part of where he shows his most growth is in one movie. I would argue that Sam is Samwise the Brave by the time we get to Bree and the Prancing Pony, because he's willing to step in and fight Aragorn, a man who's 3 times his size, to save his friend and save the mission. He does that by that point, and that never changes. He steps in front and tries to save Frodo. That's his main role. He saves Frodo from himself. He saves Frodo from Gollum. He saves him from the orcs. He does that all the time. He's Samwise the Brave through the whole thing, Jack.
It's a growth. He grows from there to that. It's the little things in Sam's story that show just how much he's changed. In Fellowship of the Ring, when we first meet him, basically at the not Prancing Pony, at the Green Dragon, where he wants to go dance with Rosie, and instead he decides to go in for another ale, and he literally has to be thrown into her to dance with her. Whereas in Return of the King, after they return to the Shire, he looks at Rosie, he takes a swig of his drink, and then just goes for it, and it cuts to them getting married. It's the little things in Sam's story that show how much he's grown. Yes, he's always been there for Frodo, but there's more to his character than just that. It's the internal growth of his character. Whereas Pippin, I mean, basically, I just don't see it. I'm sorry.
You would say that Pippin doesn't show any growth till Return of the King. I would say Sam doesn't do it till we get to the epilogue, because the whole point of his story is living for saving his best friend. And the only time he stops doing that and really thinks about living for himself and his family is after Frodo's like, I think I'm going to go to the Undying Lands now. Pippin when he gets to the point where he goes to Minas Tirith, and again, I've already discussed the different things that's happened. He's been shaped by the things he's seen. He just has that underlying fuck up nature. And it's only when he gets to Gondor and he understands, as you said, the basis of being something bigger than himself because of the death of Boromir, that he decides to enact and become a member of the guard there. And this is where he evolves the most. He helps save Faramir. He helps actually start engaging in fighting, which he hadn't really done before. He'd done it a little bit in Moria, but it's really met there. He is elated when they finish the mission, when Mount Doom, when everybody, the whole of Mordor crumbles, and then he's stricken with such guilt, which I never seen him before, when Mount Doom erupts. There's a clear distinctions of what he's engaged with and how that builds his character out, seen through Return of the King, but you get pieces of it through the first 2 movies too.
You would have had a better argument for growth if you went with Mary, who is like, by the end of the series, haunted by the battles and the war that he was in, whereas Pippin, yeah, he's sad when Mount Doom explodes, when he realizes, oh shit, Frodo was there. So was literally everyone else. Sam, yes, he was he's basically there for Frodo the whole time. Even after Frodo sent him away and he realized what happened with Gollum, he doesn't just quit. He goes back and slaughters orcs to save him and all of Middle-earth.
Okay. We are going to go to Robert first for closings. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Jack thinks I'm only talking about one piece of Sam's character, but I'm talking about the whole of his character that you've seen through the extent of 3 movies. He only lives for protecting Frodo. That's his main option, and you see that through how he fights in Moria, how he protects them from Gollum, how he protects them and gets them away from the Nazgul and Osgiliath, and everything that happens in Mordor in Return of the King. You can't say Sam is the best arc because there isn't really an arc. He lives for his best friend, and only after his friend dies does he really have something else to live for. His personality traits, his constitution are evident at the beginning of this story, and that doesn't evolve. Whereas with Pippin, that's all that happens because all you see him as is this cheeky little bastard who doesn't know how to live for anybody but himself, talking about second breakfast, engaging in stealing Farmer Maggot's crops. And then by the time we get to Return of the King, he's seen a lot of war and atrocities. He understands what it's like to be part of something bigger than himself, and he takes that with him as you see it culminating in weeping for Frodo dying, which you never would have thought of at the beginning.
At the beginning, strike it from the record. That was a little. I'm being a little more lenient lately, but that was tough, Robert. Jack, 1 minute when you start talking.
There's more to Sam's character than just living for Frodo, and there's nothing more to Pippin's character than the fuck up pothead that decides that on a whim to go on this journey. He asks when where are we going? He doesn't have much of an arc, if anything. The extent of how monumental Sam's character arc is through the trilogy is best represented in one scene in particular. When him and Frodo are struggling to climb Mount Doom, we see a glimpse of the Sam that left the Shire when he's talking about home. And when Frodo responds to him, that he can't remember the taste of food or touch of grass or anything like that. He says, "Then let us be rid of it once and for all. Come on, Mr. Frodo, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you," and carries him up the mountain, something the old Sam would have never had the strength, will, or courage to do. But Sam, he just has the best. Words are hard.
I'm going to let that one slide. That was close, but you guys just watch yourselves. Okay.
Fuck.
Well, great. Now I have to watch Lord of the Rings tomorrow. Great fucking job, guys.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I love it. And I think Epic Adventures is on the wheel. I mean, what?
What?
Ah!
I think this airs after that.
Hopefully.
It sure does, baby. Okay.
Oh. Mark's sitting there really hard thinking about why he decided to be a Wire fan instead of Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad's good, man.
He's the best.
Breaking Bad is great.
I like Better Call Saul more, but
They're close. They're probably my
Okay, Coho.
how dare you?
Yeah. I know how
How
to do
you haven't seen it?
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
He literally described it to me last time. He goes, Cody, do you like the Walt stuff better or do you like the legal stuff better? And I was like, the Walt stuff? And he's like, that's different. I like the legal stuff. I was like, the legal stuff doesn't really happen.
That's not a good way to describe it. Okay, anyway. Cody is going first on this one. Take it away, Cody.
So I think we all have either met or known of a mean girl in like school and stuff. Jack went very mean girl in this way. He defended, took down Robert's thing. Like, I just don't get it. Like, it's what are you wearing? Like, ugh. Like, he didn't give me any arguments. He just said, bro, don't understand. Pothead. He even went to his room like a fucking pothead. I was like, where are we at? Like, I understand you don't think it's correct, but he's like, I'm clearly got the hottest, best boyfriend possible, and you picked the fucking nerd. It was weird. Same reason I went against Robert last time. I think the defense of Jack, he had the correct choice. He did really well in setting up. He just did a terrible job of like taking down Robert's pick by just being disgusted that Robert picked him. So I went Robert.
Okay, I don't feel as strongly as Cody does in that.
Shocking that I'm angry about everything.
Yeah, this is interesting because not hearing the arguments, neither of these would be the pick that I would take. Honestly, like off the top of my head, not even like my top two. Three. But that being said, I think both actually did a good job of being like, because to me, when Jack was like, your guy doesn't do shit until movie 3, I was like, that's a really good point. But then Robert was able to tell me all the shit that he does. And Jack did a really good job of talking about Sam just being like the lovable friend, and then by the end he's carrying him up the mountain. But I thought Robbie Casts I thought the smartest thing Robert did was point out all of the moments that Sam is brave prior to the end of the trilogy. Because Jack's biggest argument was he starts at the beginning as just the gardener, and by the end, he is Samwise the Brave. And Robert was like, he's brave in at the Prancing Pony, he's brave in Osgiliath, he's brave here, there. I thought that was really smart. And I think that Jack did do a good job of talking about like how I think Cody oversold it a little bit on like the he's just a fucking bothead thing, but he did say that, which I thought that Robert's talk up surprised me on Pippin of like he goes from the guy who's stealing the crops and doing that stuff and pointed out I thought the smartest thing that Robert did in his pro Pippin was talking about the he's the one that decides like, hey, we need to help distract the Uruk-hai so that Frodo can get away. Like, that's a really good point that I never would have thought of. Talks about used Jack's own thing with the tree beard like against him. Like, I thought Robert had some really good pulls from the first 2 movies, keeping Mary in good spirits. I thought that was really good. So I went with Robert. I obviously could talk about this for 12 hours, but Mark, shut me up. Where would you where are you voting? Who's winning this? Or no, Robert won it. Robert won it. Where did you vote and why?
Yeah, that's true. I don't need a lead up for that. I also need Robert to clean it there. I gotta be honest. I saw the answers to this question on the outset. Didn't really like either of them. I thought they were both kind of weird choices. And Jack comes in with his opening. I think paints a really good picture for Sam. This is stuff I didn't think about. And then Robert kind of shuts all of it down kind of immediately. And like Tim said, he brings up a number of examples in the first movie where Sam is already Sam. And I do actually like Jack's argument against Pippin. I think it's the right argument to make. Is like he doesn't really change a ton throughout the course of the films, but I do think Robert kind of made at least enough points to where like Pippin does change more than Sam does, which was enough for me.
All right.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, you can.
I just straight up didn't know how to attack Pippin. Like, that was a good pitch. That was a good
pay
pick, Robert.
for our Patreon, and you can find out what Tim would have picked for his 3 guesses.
No, I'll just tell you. Number one, because I said throughout the course of movies, doesn't have to be all 3. Boromir would have been number 1.
That's fair.
Number 2 probably would have been Aragorn. He literally goes from nothing to king. And then number 3, Frodo's a bitch, but he does do a lot of growth. But you guys convinced me. You guys had really good arguments. So
Gandalf, he dies and comes back.
What? Oh, Gandalf? That is quite the arc. Okay, so we are going to move on to the third prep question. Jack does need to hit this to stay alive. The category is sci-fi icons. And the question is, what is the best action scene in a 20th century sci-fi icons film? Robert, you get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
A great action scene helps if it's cool, which, you know, is a very important point, but it also helps if the action scene helps with the narrative and informs the story of what you're looking at. And considered to be one of the most innovative action movies of the 20th century, I didn't think it would be representative of best action scenes without pulling something from The Matrix. And I chose the helicopter rescue of Morpheus, given the creative and innovative nature and how it's shot and shown, and how exciting it is in its setup and execution to be the best consideration for this category. It utilizes the best aspects of being in the Matrix, the agent's abilities to inhabit NPCs, the bullet time, the slow motion, and the activity that happens within that slow motion that shows you how you can do anything within the course of the Matrix, defying feats of gravity. Everything from the cinematography to the wire work to the score, everything builds up within the scene. And it also has a narrative basis for it, which helps extend out the end to the movie.
Time. Okay. We're going to move over to Mr. Pinchuk. Jack, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
What makes a good action scene? Obviously, top-notch stunt work and effects are essential. The performances have to convincingly match up to the stakes. And most importantly, you need a director that knows how to direct action. These are all very prevalent all throughout Terminator 2 Judgment Day, whether it's the highway chase, the mental institution escape, or the final battle. Every single one of those is expertly crafted by Cameron. However, it's John Connor's first encounter with the T-1000 that stands head and shoulders above every action scene, not just in sci-fi icons, but potentially all of film in general. This scene has everything you could ask for, from immaculate practical and visual effects to performances to James Cameron's work behind the camera. This sequence holds a special place in cinema, from Arnold dropping the roses and saying "get down" to John in an incredible twist on the audience's expectations to the explosive conclusion. This scene is a masterclass in action.
Time. Just so I know, you guys put it in the chat, but just so that I'm clear where your scene's starting and stopping, Jack, go first.
The mall hallway to the explosion in the LA River thing.
Thank you. And Robert?
From when the helicopter comes down to the point where he saves Trinity.
Okay, perfect. That's what I figured. I just wanted to be clear because, yeah, dicey. But, okay, so 5-minute freeform when one of you starts.
All right, Jack. Given how you connect, I mean, I would consider your scenes 2 scenes, but beyond that, it was accepted. What I'll say is that there are ebbs and flows in your scene. There's a lot of inconsistencies, like the T-1000 really wants to catch John Connor. but he goes down the hallway very slow. I know that's a thematic choice, but he goes down the hallway slow. He goes down the stairs slow. And then there's a lot of stories behind the scenes of like how Robert Patrick was so fast that he could catch up with the motorbike, and you could tell that he's slowing up. So there's a little bit of like, I'm not getting the full extent of what I want from the action scene. It kind of shows within that. And so there are a lot of ebbs and flows within that. Within my scene, everything's kind of shot. You mentioned James Cameron as a master of action. The Wachowskis are as well, which is why I had to put something from The Matrix in. How it's shot, how they use the slow motion, the ripples of the water, the shell casings coming down from the helicopter. It's all very thematic. Shots up from the ground, how the score hits when Morpheus is triumphantly escaping, all of that. And then that leads to the thematic part of what makes the Matrix, the scene, important, because it's when Morpheus and Trinity understand, even if Neo doesn't, that he is the one. This is the scene that pulls that off, in addition to having all of the cool action scenes.
You want to talk about score? Are you really going to try to top the Terminator 2 score? Just take Arnold's score for example. When he's introduced in the hallway with the roses, it's the terrifying, villainous T-800 score, and it's very anxiety-inducing. Whereas when he's driving past the semi-truck in the LA River Canal, whatever, it takes on a more heroic tone, and you can see that the change thematically between the two moments. You're seeing, you mentioned the slow motion. Slow motion can be incredibly effective when used sparingly, which Cameron does only twice in my scene. But when used in excess, it's kind of exhausting. There's so much slow motion in your scene. You could be fully forgiven for thinking that Zack Snyder directed it. It's overdone.
Wow, it's a low blow. I mean, it's slow motion when he shoots them and when he runs, and then everything else is sort of at normal speed. If you were going to choose a scene of a chase, I would have much rather chose the one on the highway after Cyberdyne. Gunfire, the physical action, how they bust through the burning wreckage, how he turns over the rig, and then we get into the liquid nitrogen. I think all of that's sort of more exciting than your scene. And I mean, the big part that I hate about your scene, Jack, is that anytime you're looking at a non-close-up shot of Arnold or Edward Furlong riding on their bike, you can tell it is not them. You can tell they are stunt doubles, especially when he's driving away from the explosion, and it takes me out of the scene because I know it's not them. And you can't tell that in The Matrix because there's no sense of where you get a sense that it's not Lawrence Fishburne or Keanu Reeves doing the stunts.
I mean, look, if you want to talk about stunt doubles, that's just part of action movies. You're gonna notice stunt doubles, and like you can tell in so many movies when there's stunt doubles there. I don't think that's much of a knock against the scene. It's just kind of how things are. But my scene, like you mentioned the chase in the Cyberdyne scene, there's a reason I didn't go with it. Like, yes, this one's more small scale and kind of more of an intimate chase scene, where that one is very broad, very busy, and very dark, like just visually speaking. Like it's difficult to see what's happening on screen a lot of the time. Whereas this one, you don't just get like it's not just you can see it, but you get great practical stunt work with the semi truck hitting the cars, going over the bridge. You get the great moments with Arnold on the motorcycle. You can tell it's him doing the John Wayne shotgun flips. It oozes cool in that scene, and I can't really get behind yours just because of how much slow-mo is overused in it, and the effects in that have dated badly.
I think I don't think they've been dated quite at all. And Jack, you talk about Arnold on the bike. It's great to see him on the bike. But there's a lot of scenes of him just sort of cross driving through traffic and shooting and running through gates in your scene.
maybe
No,
3 shots.
3 shots of that, Jack, going through to try to get down into the LA River Aqueduct.
And then he jumps off the top of it.
Which is
and
not
lands-
him. It's a stunt double. You could clearly tell, which I think takes away from it. The point is that yours ebbs and flows. Mine never ebbs because it's a tight 3 minutes.
Time. Okay, we are going to start closings with Jack. Jack, you have right. Yeah, this was Robert's question. So yeah, Jack, you close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
The action in the action in my scene, there's weight to it. Every time the T800 or T1000 is thrown against a wall in the hallway, you can feel it. When the semi truck goes down into the LA River Canal, you can feel it. In Robert's scene, the action is completely weightless. It's the overuse of slow-mo takes you completely out of it. The effects have dated poorly, but with the T1000's effects specifically, they have dated so well. They've aged like fine wine. Whether it's the him getting shot with the shotgun and seeing the open metal wound, or him walking out of the flaming wreckage of the semi truck at the very end of the scene and completely reforming, those have aged so well. Whereas the Matrix, you can tell just how dated they are, and it's really not a contest between the two.
Time. Okay, we're going to move over to Robert. Robert, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
You know why the Matrix scene feels weightless is because they're in a computer simulated world where everybody can defy gravity, especially Neo, because he's Matrix Jesus. And that makes sense for the context of what's going on in my scene, how everything is shot, how Neo and Morpheus meet together, how he rescues Trinity. It all speaks to how Neo is the one, even though he can't see it. I feel the stuff that Jack's talking about in the hand-to-hand fighting, it feels silly. Because every time Arnold faces someone who's not up to his physicality, it feels wrong. And all the inconsistencies I mentioned, how the T1000 can't chase John down on foot or on the rig, how John doesn't wipe out whenever the rig hits him. It's supposed to be in a real world, even though it's full of murderous robots. So there's more leeway with what's going on in my scene than that. And I would say that the effects of the shotgun are good, but I would say the effects when he's coming out of the fiery stuff is like PS1 level cutscene bullshit. And it shouldn't hold for that to be the best action scene, where my effects, they hold up well, and so does the scene.
Time. How dare you speak about the PS1 that way? My God.
We're just letting anybody say whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, I guess that's
Jesus.
You're right. Yeah,
Christ.
Jesus. My God.
Jeez. I thought we had decorum in this league.
For God's sake.
I had the lack of decorum. I don't know what to say about the other half of the roster.
That's,
you know what? That's very fair.
That's very true. All right.
That former champion was a douchebag. I know that. That's all I know.
I think he met himself, not you. I don't think he.
I'm not going.
You were
I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far. Kirk.
Next thing you know, Mark's gonna win the belt. Okay.
Oh, love it.
Oh my God, with those guns, Jesus.
Put the cowboy hat out. Oh.
I fucking love that cowboy hat. My God. All right, Mark, you are kicking this one off. Take it away.
Yeah, I was going to. I actually went with Jack on this one. I feel like I just kind of liked his overall argument, I think, for his scene more. And just in general, I feel like most of Robert's attacks didn't really land with me. Even the one where he brings up the stunt double, I think Jack honestly has a pretty decent answer for that one. It's an action movie. You're going to see stunt doubles, and it's just kind of the nature of the game in there. And I think Jack was also kind of smart just to kind of let that one go for the most part. And I honestly did kind of buy at least Jack's hit, at least on how his more or less kind of hinges on kind of practical stuff. And a lot of stuff from Robert's scene does kind of feel up the time.
Okay. Cody.
Yeah. Weird. Not a lot on the overall action. They touched on it. They just didn't. We got the scores at one point. Just a future reference for anybody that plays in the league. If you feel like a scene is 2 scenes combined into one, just put it in the chat and get it discredited, because I agree with you. I do think it's 2 scenes, but we did allow it because there was no pushback. But overall, I thought it was weird. The stunt double thing I think was awkward, I think The Matrix is one of the most overrated films of all time. Like I think the movie's terrible, but I had to go on the argument, and I ended up going with Robert. I think Robert just painted the better picture of why the action scene is. I don't know. I think effects and everything else. I think I kind of just throw some of those arguments out because, like, you can only go with so much. It's based on the action. Stunt doubles didn't really matter. I just think Robert painted it better on why his scene doesn't have lulls, doesn't have anything. Like, it is straight through it, and it has a through line. So I think it was better. Yeah.
Well, you have all put me in an awkward position. Yeah, I thought this was closer than I initially thought it was going to be. Given the choices and the opening arguments, I thought this was leaning a certain way. Buckle, hello. And yeah, I agree with both of you that both said things that kind of surprised me. Like, I agree with Mark that I thought Jack shoving away the stunt double thing was a smart move. That is the move of someone who, that's something I've been wanting to see from Jack, is like thinking on your feet and just like taking something someone says and just like throwing it away and being like, that's bullshit, fuck you. And he did that. And I thought that was a really good point. And I thought that Robert did some interesting stuff, like taking Jack's complaints about the Matrix sequence and being like, it's supposed to be floaty. It's supposed to look like this. It's supposed to be that. Like, I thought was really smart as well. I ultimately did go with Bobby. And I feel bad about it. I feel good. I'm happy for Robert, but feel bad for Jack. Because I think that at the end of the day, listening to both arguments and thinking about it, I think Robert just had the stronger case for why his, when you look at the 2 scenes individually, is a little more timeless, and specifically the way that Cody said of talking about the specific action in the scene and not like the score and the visual effects and all that stuff. Robert kind of got to the core of that a little bit more for me. And so I chose Robert, which means your winner is Robert Castner by way of knockout. We are going to take, I didn't want to take Cody out. I wanted to take them out. We're going to take a quick second before we get into post-match interviews. Cody, what did you think about the match? Mark, what did you think about the match?
Sorry, it paused. Which one?
Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I think it was fine. I think where it is like, I think today, and this is no shot at Jack, I think what he did was he ran in and collected those arguably correct answers. I think he was very fast on picking his answers. I said that at the beginning. I think just because something looks correct on paper, sometimes it's to look at what your opponent could pick, vice versa. Like, yeah, Sam, he's like Middle Earth guy. Like, what could he pick against my Middle Earth thing? And even if he feels confident, like, I think it's smart when you're debating to figure out like why your opponent tried to pick that and like what could help you in that. Like, why would you pick it if you got it? If that was your choice, like, figure out things positively to try to take down the negative. I think that's what ended up happening today. And I think Jack is like, when he first started, KO'd, he lost tonight. Don't put that in the same realm, because I think your KO tonight is less than your KO the first time.
I would agree.
They were closer matches. I just think like there's a different echelon, right? He's better than the bottom half of the roster. He's proven that. Now he's got to improve to get up to the better part of the roster. He's already worked very high to get there. there is a scenario that he beats Robert. Like, there is a I voted for him. I voted for him once. I could have easily voted for him twice. So just think about that going into it. I think Robert's very good. I think Robert, again, debates very similar to Brian, and I think that's what makes that matchup super interesting to me. So good luck, Robert, in your next match. But I think this match was better than what the scoreboard is going to show.
Yeah, let's talk to the players now. Let's start by talking to Jack. Jack, I think Cody hit the nail on the head, saying that you're good enough now to beat that lower echelon of player pretty handedly. And today, and I think you have a future where you do beat Robert. I think what came today, and this is what I'm analyzing, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone disagrees, but it felt to me like today there was a moment where Jack realized I'm playing the guy who knocked me out in my debut in a contender match. And you were a little not off, because I think your arguments and your picks were solid. But I think there was a little bit of nervousness here that I did not see in your last two matches. That being said, like I just said, I thought your arguments were great. There was never a question where I was like, oh, Robert totally fucking won that. Like, hands down, 100% Jack was just shit in that. Like, that never happened. But I think that this is a scenario where we do see Jack in a contender match again next season and could make a run. So how are you feeling after the match? I know it's gotta not feel great. But it is what it is, and I think you played fantastic. Jack, what are you thinking?
I know this is a knockout, but it doesn't really feel like one in a sense that I'm happy with how I played, specifically in questions 2 and 3. I thought I got off to a bit of a rough start in question 1. I was a little, that's where I think I could let the nerves get to me a little bit too much. I think I played a really good game. I got 2 of them were split decisions, so I'll take it. Robert just played better. He debated better. He had the arguments. I wasn't prepared for his Pippin one all that much. That's the one I struggled with the most. He did well. He deserves the win, and I'm excited to see him play in the title match. But yeah, also, I 100% thought that his scene in The Matrix was going to be from the lobby shootout to the rescuing of Morpheus. So I was prepared for the lobby shootout portion a lot more, but that didn't really work. So I had to think on my feet a little bit. No, this was fun. I think I'm more confident in myself in debate now than I was like even at the end of last season. So yeah, no, I'm happy with how I played. I can't wait to be back. Whether it's going to be next season, probably.
It will be next season. Yes. You actually, Jack, by winning as much as you have, you've played a lot of matches this year. You've played more than. So I'm looking at it. So the current champion Brian has played 4 matches. Kirk has played 4 matches. Joe has actually, because he beat you, has ended up playing 5. No, that's not right. Yeah, no, that is right. He's ended up playing 5, but you're also at 4. So you've actually gotten a lot of playtime this season, which I'm happy to say. I think that, we have this beef where I hate you and stuff, but it makes me happy to see that you love the debate and you're working to make yourself better in it. I think that's fantastic. So Jack, you did great tonight. I look forward to seeing what you do next season, and if we can get you back here to another contender match and even a title match. So congrats on the match. We'll see you next time, Jack.
See you next time.
All right, let's bring in the winner, Robert Castner. Robert, 3-0 against Jack again. That's your second knockout on your record, and now you're going for a title. This is spooky. Robert has challenged for many a thing, and now he's going for the debate. And I know firsthand the scourge of Robert Castner when he's in a title match. So I think Cody like I said with Jack, also hit the nail on the head with Robert, where Robert, I think you and Brian have very similar styles. And before, I think I would have said, before you played these last couple matches, I probably would have said like, oh, Brian's got whoever here locked. You really impressed me today. I think that this is going to be a very interesting match. First off, how are you feeling about the match against Jack? And then we'll talk about your next one.
I'm one away from the cycle.
I hate that name.
Fuck, bring out your dead. Yeah, I know. Coho made it. I can't think of a better term for it. The Pentagon? How about the Pentagon? 5 pieces? No? Okay. Well,
yeah. No, anyway, go on.
Yeah. Honestly, I haven't seen Jack really debate much since we played the first time. And I got to tell you, and it's no offense to how Jack was before, but this is night and day different.
Yeah.
When he started out his opening argument of debate 1, I was like, it's a different Jack. And I do think, Tim, I did see a switch flip at some point where it seemed like he did get a little bit tongue-tied. And I think, sometimes that can happen and sometimes that can throw you off. It's thrown me off on occasion too.
Yeah.
But I think Jack has nothing to be sad. I honestly thought I was losing that last debate, and I thought we were going to the 4th. I didn't get to debate in the first match we did about how Alice sucks in Twilight. And I didn't get to debate Villeneuve opening scenes and how
I really wanted to see that.
I know, and how boring I think Blade Runner 2049 is in that part. Even though I love it, I love the movie. It's so extended with things like walking and flying. Either way, no, Jack has nothing to hang his head about. I remember when Brian won the belt, and you gave him like the list of people who he could play, and he was like, out of that group, I'm interested in like Bar and me. And I was like, yes, good. Fear me, sort of, from a distance.
Yeah.
I always, my egocentric manner, if I get put in a picture, I'm like, people talk about me because I'm good at this shit. I promise you. That's the inside I would never express, although we're doing an interview, so I'm expressing it now.
Yeah.
So when I watched Brian debate Cody, I looked at it and I was like, he kind of does his thing where he writes out how he wants to open and how he wants to close. And that's sort of how I write my notes. I have like a free flowing thing of notes, but I want to have like an intro that I'm proud of. And it's like we're kind of lawyers in front of a jury, and we want to have an opening and a closing, and then everything else sort of is freewheeling and then you improvise. And I was an improviser in college. So I think that speaks to my strengths too. I can pull things out and yes and shit if I need to. But Jack impressed me a lot, and I'm not surprised he's been to 2 contender matches. I think it's only a matter of time for him. I'm very happy I got to go through this gauntlet and not potentially other gauntlets that are in the works, because that would have been much, much tougher. But I'm very excited. I didn't think I would ever get to this point, and I wanted it to be against Cody just because I wanted to see what it would be like in a fight round, but it's not. And we're doing Brian, and yeah, I guess it's going to be like sort of looking in a mirror. So sorry, everybody, that you're going to be looking in a 2-way mirror.
Man, I think it's going to be super fantastic. I'm looking forward to it, Robert. Congrats on the win tonight, but ultimately congrats on just even more success and in all of the things. This is just another drop in the crown, I'm sure, but I'm looking forward to seeing how you do in the match against Brian, who is around the game so much, but also I think you have a real shot. I really do, and I'm looking forward to it, to see what can come of it, to see if we can get the Fanzone belt on you. But no matter what, I think it's going to be a great match. So congrats on the win tonight. We will see you in the title match. We already got closing thoughts from Cody and basically from me when I was talking to the people. So Mark, why don't you close us out?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and listen, Robert looked very good. I am also disappointed we didn't get to that Villeneuve question. Honestly,
Amen, brother.
It was set up to maybe be the better question, at least a better fight of the match. And yeah, I think also I agree with everybody. I think Jack looks good here. I think it's a matter of him just kind of trying of trying to enter into that next tier of player. I think he's already solidified himself kind of in this like second tier, and now he has to try to find a way to break past that first tier, which I think within a matter of time, like he can. He definitely showed spurts of that throughout this match. But yeah, I mean, Robert won the matches. He's going to be playing Brian. That's going to be something. But we saw Brian already go through a pretty impressive gauntlet before. I think Robert can do it, but he definitely has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, man, I forgot that Brian had like a really hard road in his. What did he play? Holtzman, Nazario, Kirk, and then Cody. That's disgusting. But Robert's played some good people too, you know, going up against people like Jack, going up against people like Alex, who has been improving as well. Or no, Alex was who Jack played. Robert played Birch, who's also been improving as well. So I think this is shaping up to be a really special title match that I wasn't quite expecting. So I'm really happy to see the way that this turned out. So thank you to Jack and to Robert. Thank you to Mark and Cody for judging. Thank you to Kirk and Brian behind the scenes. I have been Tim. We will see you guys next time with another great match. Until then, have a great night. See you next time.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.